Welcome to Buckets, your daily NBA betting podcast presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. I'm Brandon Kravitz, joined by a couple of the finest hoopers in the sports betting game. Bryan Fonseca from the New York Post, Michael Fiddle from the NBA Betting Podcast with who else but Michael Fiddle, the market maestro. Big time trade in the association that we need to talk about before we get to our 3-star, 2-star, and 1-star bets. And with 4 games to discuss, I think we will find a way towards some general consensus. But we need to talk about this trade. Ice trade in the NBA. Trae Young heads to Washington after reports surface that the Wizards were his preferred destination. That's the first time in my lifetime that report has ever hit the headlines, the newspapers, the radio airwaves, whatever. The podcast platforms, if you want to keep it in the 2025s or 20. Yeah, we're into 2026 now, but we've got takes on this. We've got some potential betting ramifications to it as well. Bryan, how did you react to the trade when you first saw this go down, and were you as mystified as I was that his preferred destination was Washington?
No, when I realized that Travis Schlenk is the VP of player personnel in Washington. And Travis Schlenk was obviously a key person in the Hawks front office when Trae Young was there. So kind of putting 2 and 2 together, it also made sense from the standpoint of, hey, Trae Young doesn't have a lot of teams that seemingly want to pay for him. And the reports started coming out within the last few days, like, hey, Washington seems to be the team, which means this has actually been in the works for a lot longer. And now the reports are coming out because this is already like just about done. And it quickly escalated to, hey, Corey Kispert might be in this deal. Hey, maybe Zachary Reese-Shea. As a matter of fact, no, not Reese-Shea. And Corey Kispert did end up being in a deal. So it was Trae Young for Corey Kispert's contract, which is not a great one from a length standpoint, but it's a movable one. It's a functional one. It's going to be $13.9 million this year and next year, $13 million the year after. And then there's a team option for $13 million, 2028, 2029, by which point he'll be about 30 years old. And then CJ McCollum is the other person in this deal who's going to be just an expiring $30.6 million that Atlanta has a veteran that they can play off of, Reese-Shea and Jalen Johnson and, Kristaps Porzingis if he stays on the roster, because now there's going to be reports about him potentially being rerouted somewhere else. And Trae Young probably gets the contract that he wants. And Washington doesn't have a lot of long-term salary now, so they could afford to give Trae Young this contract and take a swing. And it's like, all right, Alex Sarr, here's the point guard. They don't have to pay Alex Sarr yet. He's not going to be extension eligible for another summer. And even so, he won't even see his money kick in until about 2028. And then you look at other guys like Bilal Coulibaly, who's going to be extension eligible. He's not getting a max, so who cares? Like, you can keep him at a good number. So all of this just sort of makes sense. And for Washington, it's almost like, why not? Who are you signing in free agency? I'm not a Trae Young guy, but I also think he's probably a little bit better than maybe getting traded for this. He's been an all-star multiple times. He's a high-usage offense-first guy, which the league is moving away from. So I wonder what that means for some of the other high usage offense first guys who are targets in the playoffs. But I think this is a good trade nonetheless for Washington and even for Atlanta.
The Wizards are 5-3 in their last 8 games. They've been a lot scrappier. They've been a lot better defensively. And maybe they're quick. I know, you said that this has been in the works for a while, so I'm not saying that 8 games makes them go, hey, let's go get Trae Young. But it does make it to where it feels like timeline-wise, not so much for this season, but where they feel like they could actually be a playoff team maybe come next year. Are you of the opinion, Fiddle, that this helps the Wizards long-term, or is this just about getting a little bit better organically, and now – is that your dog checking in on this? Yeah. Getting a little bit better organically and then trying to sprinkle some relevancy on top of it because they've been such an irrelevant franchise for so long.
I definitely think this makes the Wizards get better. They don't really have many on-ball players, especially with like CJ and Chris Middleton being their main go-to guys right now. Like, they don't have many on-ball guys that you're worried about deterring the development of. They still have a top 8 protected pick in the lottery this year, which I think they'll end up keeping. And then they'll probably get to sign Trey to an extension. And they'll probably get him sub-max, and they'll get him not to opt into his player option as a way to give him a 4-year deal that could end up looking really good in a year or two from now. Like, he's one of those guys who's got a ton of NBA experience, and he could put players in the right spots around him. Like, they have some good defensive players. Sarr has been fantastic with his rim protection this year. Koulibaly is an intriguing prospect as an on-ball defender. So, like, adding Trey and then potentially a high draft pick, we'll see what they do. But yeah, this is a total win for Washington. I mean, I do think Kispert and McCollum fit well in Atlanta. So I actually don't think Atlanta necessarily gets worse. I've been a large proponent that even though Atlanta's record this year has not been great with Trey Young, and they've been a better team record-wise with Trey Young off the court, that's so convoluted and not true. And Trey Young on the Atlanta Hawks still makes the Atlanta Hawks a better team. However, replacing that with CJ and Corey Kispert is a fine, trade-off for the Hawks in their current iteration. It's definitely an improvement for Washington. Just so from a betting angle, right now, Washington is the second worst market-rated team in the NBA at a minus 8.6 points worse than average. If you combine the value of McCollum, who's still worth slightly more than a point, and Corey Kispert, you get Trey Young added, and you still improve your team by about 1.6 points. So now they should be about 7 points worse than an average team. That should put them on par with the Pelicans, who obviously are featuring Jordan Poole, who was part of this deal in a long-winded way as well, because he was the piece that went and got McCollum in the first place from New Orleans. So they're going to be better than Sacramento right now. They might be better than Brooklyn. They might be better than New Orleans, but they're still a bottom team. So I definitely think they're going to end up keeping their pick that's top 8 protected for sure. And they definitely get better, and they probably get a good player on a good deal moving forward.
My question is, I find myself being a Trey apologist more than anything else, but if you're someone where your team has seemingly been better, they have functioned better, the Hawks have, without Trey Young in the lineup, how another team then gets better when they add the player that wasn't as good for the team that traded him. That's the part I'm having a hard time. We do see that happen in sports. I'm having a hard time, if I'm being honest with this situation, saying, okay, well, the Hawks are better without him, but the Wizards are better with him.
The Hawks are not better without him. First of all, they have been better in like a 14-game sample size this year, but they're not better without him. But to speak to that, they do have Jalen Johnson. They do have Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They do have players that this year have shown the ability for on-ball creation stuff to be way better than we expected. And Trey is not great off-ball. Like, Trey was compared to Steph a lot early in his career, and it was just because they shot the ball from deep. Steph Curry is one of the best off-ball players in the history of the NBA. Trey Young is not good off the ball. So they bring in Kispert, they bring in McCollum. Those guys actually pretty formidable off ball. When you go to Washington, Washington doesn't have the elite ball handlers and playmakers. So he steps into that role, which like Atlanta had the pieces in a point forward, in a point shooting guard in NAW, and like those players who had a little bit more length and could fit with Dyson Daniels, who could also play in some point guard and playmaking responsibilities. So they had other players to fill the gaps of Trey and probably wanted people better off ball, and they weren't going to re-sign him. Like, why keep going? They weren't going to re-sign him. It was going to keep getting louder. It was going to deter the development. Now maybe they go after Anthony Davis. We'll see what happens. Maybe it's Porzingis and something for AD, and they try and go pretty defensive and pace and tempo and size and switchability. We'll see what happens. But I do think because of the playmaking and not having Johnson or Alexander Walker, it is a clear upgrade for Washington.
But I mean, I respectfully disagree. The Hawks have clearly said we're good with moving on from a superstar player. that at least the perception is that he's a superstar player. They wouldn't do that if they felt like we can argue over better or worse. If they felt like they could reach their ceiling with Trae Young as their point guard, there's no way they're making this trade. And that was the decision that they made. Brian, where do you fall on this debate?
I mean, I think the reason why I think they'll be better without him is because they'll be able to reshape their identity easier without him. Because when you have Trae Young on your roster, you kind of have to play Trae Young basketball, which means he's going to have the ball a lot. He's going to play make for others. He did seemingly play off the ball more this year than he had, but he's not an off the ball player. The on-off numbers are really bad, obviously. And for the shooting that he's known for, like, he's a league average 3-point shooter for his career, basically. And this year is well below that. So it doesn't make sense if you're trying to reshape your roster into maybe a different identity, maybe a Jalen Johnson identity, or an identity around Jalen Johnson. You want to put defense around him. You want to have, length around him with Dyson Daniels, for example, who is a testament to that. We'll see what you get with Porzingis. We'll see if Onyeka Okongwu, who's had a good individual year, but his on-off numbers aren't great either. We'll see if he could have a better impact once they clear some space for him potentially. But like, that's what it's going to depend on. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker is playing above his head. I didn't think he'd be this. So maybe they must buy into this being real. And why wouldn't you, given that you just signed him? So that being said, can Trae Young benefit Washington? And I think the answer, even though I'm probably lower on Trae than like Fiddle, for example, but I think he can be beneficial for them because it's a different situation. It's like you're Washington, you have not been good, and until recently, apparently, but like they're in totality, they're not. So you're just trying to take a swing, like a talent swing around, okay, we think Alex Sarr can be something. Let's get him a point guard. We think Bilal Coulibaly can be something. You know what I mean? And then you're just trying to, okay, here's a star player who's currently on a short-term contract. They haven't re-signed him yet. They really don't have to do anything right now. They can kind of play this out for a year and then see how it goes in the summer. It's not like they traded a ton. You know what I mean? They didn't trade 4 first-round picks. So they're not really married to this right now. They're just giving it a shot. And I think if you're Washington, it's like, why not? I don't think Trae Young is going to come in and win you a ton of games either. So I do think you'll still be in good draft position. So for them, it's like, okay, like how else are you going to get talent into the door? Because at some point you got to go and get somebody. Not that it has to be Trae Young, but you got to get somebody. And then if you're Atlanta, it's like
to prove that they'd be willing to make a move. I think it's partly due to relevancy to get a little bit better, but eventually they'll learn what the Hawks learned. We can only go this far with this player, and then we're going to have to pivot. But they're not even close to the point where the Hawks are. So
that's Kravitz. That's the thing. It's a timeline thing because, like, for Atlanta, you're trying to be like, yo, we can be kind of close. So in order to get there, like, we have to do this because we need to get better defensively. Like, it's a little bit more like there's more stakes there. Whereas if you're Washington, you're like, who gives a fuck? Like, we're just here to have fun. We'll see what happens.
I think we could also say that Trae adds to the development of the Washington players, whereas he was probably taking away from the development of the Atlanta players just because of play style stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Fiddle, is there any other bettable angle to this other than just game to game and what Trae Young will likely do to the market and power rating of the Washington Wizards? Usually when we see a big trade, we immediately rush to the conference title or the title market. It's like we're not doing that with this, obviously. So is there any, before we move on completely, I want to make sure that we leave no stone unturned with this, but this being the first episode where we're talking about the Trae Young deal, is there anything else where a bettor can say, okay, Young is on the Wizards, the Hawks have made a clear decision. Is there anything that they can do in the futures market specifically?
The futures market, probably not. What I would say is I think Trae is healthy and ready to play basketball. So he's missed a few games recently, but we've seen him on court warming up, actually in a great mood, like having a good time with his teammates. I think Trae is going to play the next Wizards game. Like, the Wizards played tonight. They're not on the card tomorrow. He'll probably travel there and do his physical stuff, but but I think Trey will be in the opening day lineup or next game lineup for the Wizards. So prices on Wizards for the next game, I would think you need to buy in early because he might be listed questionable and he's probably going to end up being active. So I always prefer to play trade angles, not in the futures market, but in just the next game. It's just like, let's get this churning as quick as possible. So I would be playing Wizards ATS. I'll look up the Wizards schedule and what the theoretical price would be, and then we could actually like give an actionable look on that.
Brian, the Wizards are 200-1 to win the title, just in case.
No,
I wanted to do that.
There's not really a bet that I'm gonna make off of this.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll be monitoring the minutes because he'll probably, like, I'd be stunned if he plays 35 minutes immediately. So we'll see what that looks like there. But in the chat, you know what I mean? Like, Free Sauce mentions the pick and pop potential with him and SAR. I think there could be something there. Like SAR 3s is maybe something you want to look at if the pick and pop does yield some early results. And apocalyptic truth teller, which is a ballsy name, says Trey assist numbers play the overs immediately the first couple of games. Like, if he's going to have that high usage, you know what I mean? But I do wonder what this means for some of the other guys on this team. He also said that he's surprised I don't love Trae Young, given how apologetic Trey was about playing villain to the Knicks. I like Trae Young's attitude. I just don't like building my team around high usage, offense only guys who just need the ball all the time, who are going to get targets on defense. Yeah. It just it's very tough to win with those dudes unless they're super elite, and Trey is just not that right now.
Right. Also, I think it is wild to think back to the 2018 draft where the Mavs and the Hawks swapped picks. Luka and Trey traded on draft night, and now both have been traded from the teams that drafted them when they were traded for to begin with. There's some weird sort of juju in the air, the water with the 2018 draft.
And both of them have gotten a first pick in the last two drafts. Flag and Ricochet.
Neither of them got traded for draft picks, huh? Because Luka was just AD and
Luka was a first, but then the Mavs also sent a second back.
Oh, that's right. Then barely any picks. Okay.
Yeah.
If you combine the return for both of them, it's like,
I mean, we can't even compare this to the Luka deal. Was just.
Oh yeah,
This is not great for Atlanta, but I think Atlanta was interested in getting off of the contract. The Luka trade is indefensible. That's just the worst trade in NBA history. That's just that simple.
Yeah.
Yep.
We are going to get to our best bets on the Thursday slate in just a moment, but first, an important message from Matt Moore.
The Buckets Podcast has teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, where new customers can bet $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. Stay in on the action and use your bonus bet on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. To get started, use promo code BucketsNBA when signing up with DraftKings. Again, use code BucketsNBA when signing up and bet $5 to get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. The crown is yours.
All right, there's going to be a little bit of hand-holding here on our 3-star, 2-star, and 1-star plays. We'll start with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Fiddle, take it away.
3-star play is Cavaliers +3. This is a spot where the Cavaliers are healthy. Donovan Mitchell off the injury report. Darius Garland, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, all good to go. DeAndre Hunter back. Sam Merrill back. The only guy that they're actually still missing is Max Strus, who's going to miss another month. When the Cavaliers have been whole, they have been not only good, but highly respected in market. Way better than you would anticipate, consistently taking steam and then quickly having a market rating that's top 5 in the NBA. And you're like, did I see that correctly? We talk about the same Cavaliers from this year, but they are very good when they are whole. And this is a game where they are whole. And then you go up against a Minnesota Timberwolves team that has struggled against the good teams. So I think this is a clear buy point on Cleveland. In fact, Brandon, I don't remember if we've done a show since the NBA Cup together, Knicks Spurs. I don't think me and you have done a show together since then. Knicks was one of my biggest bets, first quarter, full game, in two separate bets. It was just like one of the largest positions I've had all year in the NBA. Cavaliers right now is coming second biggest bet I've had in months. Cavaliers +3, Cavaliers on the money line, probably an overplay at the 238.5, 239, probably even thrown in parlays and other things because this is going to gain CLV and you're going to have a plus EV parlay. But Cavaliers +3, the anchor to my Thursday night in the association.
Yeah, cosign, retweet, all of those things. I still don't trust the Timberwolves against good teams that are at the top of the heap. And when the Cavaliers are healthy, they are one of those teams that has been well documented at this point. The Timberwolves are 7-9 straight up against teams that are above 500. And we're going to get Donovan Mitchell back in the fold for Cleveland here. If it holds any relevance to any of you, just to add to the cap, a little icing on top. In the last two head-to-head meetings, Cleveland is 2-0 against Minnesota. That speaks to the matchup efficiency for Cleveland here. And this is also a nice buy low, sell high in terms of the betting market. The Timberwolves have won and covered 3 straight. The Cavs have failed to cover as favorites 3 straight games in a row. So I think the number is slightly bloated for that reason. We get good value on the dog. Love the Cleveland Cavaliers. Could not bet that fast enough. Any thoughts, Brian, before we move on?
I have a correlated play.
Hit us.
Might as well get to it.
Yep.
We're on Donovan Mitchell over 29.5. There's actually some 28.5s right now. 28 available, so you can get that too. The 29.5 is plus money. And I know Cleveland's healthier than they've been, but they're also thin right now still. So Donovan Mitchell, it's not like he's going to play, 28 minutes or so. The 3 other games that he missed this season, he came back and scored 30 plus in all of them, 37 against Atlanta, 31 against Toronto, and then 30 against the Hornets after missing a game. So with the extended rest, he's been good. Lately, as a matter of fact, he's gotten 30 plus in 4 of his last 6, and you could even extend that beyond to, I believe that's 7 of his last 10 or something along those lines. The matchup here is a pretty decent one from a perimeter perspective. Minnesota allows apparently the 9th most points to the guard spot, and obviously we know their struggle so far this year is sort of stopping guys on the perimeter and less so on the interior because of who they have down there. But on the perimeter, chasing guys around, Donovan Mitchell will be able to get his shots off against Dante DiVincenzo, against even Anthony Edwards at times, and against obviously Mike Conley when he's going to be out there, and against Bones Highland when he's out there. So for a thin slate, I like this one here. He's more reliable than not. And if you can still get 28.5, that's probably what I would go with. But I think you can also play 30 plus at plus money and be fine. He should get volume, obviously. He's shooting a ton this season, more than he has in his career. And I think this is a decent matchup against an otherwise good defense. But Donovan Mitchell's Donovan Mitchell, and he's been really good this year.
Yeah, he torches good defenses. All right, let's add to the correlation then. My 2-star play, Cavs, first quarter, money line. I do not see a price on this yet, but when it flashes, the Cavs are underdogs, so you're likely to get plus money or at least even odds on this. The way that I see it is that the 3-star of Cavs +3, a lot more likely to come home with the two-star cashing here. A lot more likely to come home with Brian's 3-star cashing here. So if you're in the SGP world, there you go, on a silver platter. The Cavs have been one of the hottest starts in the NBA this season. 7th best scoring margin in the first quarter. They're also the worst first-half team in the NBA against the spread. So make it make sense. 7th best scoring margin in the first quarter. Worst first-half team against the spread. So basically, when the Cavs play well, it's because they start well in the first quarter. They let go of the rope, and then maybe they pull themselves back in. That's typically how these Cavs games go. Their opponent, awful in the first quarter. 28th most profitable first quarter team are the Minnesota Timberwolves, and it doesn't get any better when they're at home. That number doesn't change at all. I think that they're likely overvalued in terms of, and I think part of the reason in telling the story of why are the Timberwolves so bad against the first quarter spread, I think a lot of people bet them because Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle play predominantly the entire quarter, and they just haven't been cashing. So I think they're overpriced, and this is a correlated play for me with the Cavs cashing the first quarter money line and then take us home with the +3. Fiddle, your thoughts on the add to the play?
Yeah, I like it. I'll be certainly rooting Cavs first quarter. I do think first quarter splits do tell a good story in this kind of regard, because first quarter betting is often about rotations. And so the Cavs being thin, like Brian talked about, and them being healthy, like we talked about, it means that they're probably going to be full in the first quarter. And so that matters a lot. First quarter rotations are like the most important factor for handicapping first quarters. Something that Haralabob, Brandon, I know we've talked about Warren Sharp. I'm not Warren.
Billy Walters.
We talked about Walters. We talked about Dan Abrams' book. Now we could talk about Haralabob, the most famous NBA bettor.
Famous for his first quarters.
In first quarters, and it was a lot because of rotation stuff and him cracking NBA rotations as a handicapping angle before books caught on, which to me, I'm just like, how did I wish I was betting 15 years ago to think of those. I mean, no offense to Haralabob. I mean, it's obvious. It's amazing what he did. That's an obvious edge. I feel like I would have easily figured that one out. Now it's more priced in than it used to be, but I do like it in this spot.
So, and I think that the reason why Minnesota is having trouble covering first quarter numbers is because it's priced in. The rotations, two of the heaviest played minute players in the first quarter in the NBA are Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle. That would lead you.
Interesting.
That would lead you to believe, well, they're playing heavy. They're playing the whole first quarter. Let's go bet the Minnesota Timberwolves. Well, this stuff is baked in now, and I'm not saying that everything is baked in. You just run the other way, but when the numbers start to back it up and we're halfway through the season, it tells a very clear story. Let's move on to our two-star plays. Fiddle, what you got?
My two-star play is going to be straight taken from the Bryan Fonseca handbook. Miami Heat against the spread. I know he's normally of a money line backer. I'll do it against the spread. Heat -6.5, I believe, is best number in market. I like the Heat in this spot. They're going up against a Bulls team that is not only thin to begin with, but is on the second leg of a back-to-back, whereas the Heat are rested and coming off of a bad loss. So one of those J-Money spots for the Miami Heat, and it has been one where I think you might see Blues Ellis be out tomorrow. I wonder if Kobe White is still out tomorrow. So I think the injuries beyond Giddey, Jalen Smith, who was starting for a little bit, the injuries are pretty thick right now for the Chicago Bulls. And I think in a high-paced game, which this certainly will be between the Heat and the Bulls, talent is going to win over the course of a lot of possessions. This is probably one where the Bulls are going to run into their variance nightmares, increasing the amount of possessions against the Miami Heat. And I even wonder on the Heat side if we get Jaime Jaquez back. So all those factors combining, give me the Heat for a victory, ATS.
Love it. Just played it as you were talking about it. Let's get that in before that one settles above 7, which it looks like, if you're following the market right now, that is the way we are going. Does the Heat Maestro approve on such degenerate behavior?
It's my 1-star. It's more of a lean because we have a 4-game slate and because I have difficulty trusting this team, but this should be a good spot for them. The thing that I'm concerned with is what that injury report does in fact look like. So as Fiddle mentioned, Jaime Jaquez, who's been questionable, and looked like he was going to play last game.
Yep.
But then they ended up ruling him out, and they ruled Tyler Hero in for the first time in a little bit. because Tyler Hero's been dealing with another injury, a toe injury. There's some, I would refer to this as healthy speculation that Bam Adebayo's been playing less than 100%, probably with a back injury. So I do wonder if at any point does he start to sit, but he tends to play through these injuries and then his number suffers and then he looks like shit and then he wakes up like in time for the playoffs to play better. But right now he's in like a really bad funk. So I do wonder like if he sits, because he's still holding together their defense in a lot of different ways, which has been better lately, Minnesota notwithstanding. So I do wonder what he's going to like, if there's going to be a game where his name pops up on the injury report at some point and then he ends up missing. But aside from that, if he's out there, like, yeah, I think they should be able to handle business, get this done. I don't trust the Bulls either. So I do think with Miami, this does feel like a decent bounce back spot for them, and they could be pretty much healthy other than Terry Rozier, although in the NBA, you never truly know. So make sure you're checking the injury reports in the morning, in the afternoon, and before tip-off, because as somebody who had 4 guys in fantasy put on the injury report this afternoon, and a few of them missed, Brandon Miller, Onyeka Okongwu, like, you just have to be aware at all times. But the other thing is, as Free Sauce comments, no Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey has had some big games against the Heat since going to Chicago. He's not there. That does matter a pretty significant amount.
Yeah, it's a different team without him. I was on the Pistons minus 10.5 on last night's episode. That was not taking into account injury information that we were not privy to in any which way. This wasn't anywhere that Cade Cunningham was going to miss the game. Found out middle of the day on Wednesday that was even a possibility, and then right before the game he's ruled out. It's a close game throughout. The Pistons, they pull away at the end. They wind up covering the spread. I got lucky, did not get the best of the number. Sometimes you're on the right side of it. Today was one of those days for me. But part of the cap on that was that, one, Giddey was out, obviously, so that's a big part of it. But Buzelis and Kobe White were on the injury report. And just reading the way that Bulls reporters were talking about it, it seemed a lot to me like on the front end of a back-to-back, one of those two would play, and then they'd swap it on the second night, and that creates value on the number if Cade Cunningham played. So I think Buzelis might miss this game. Kobe White didn't play on Wednesday night. Keep an eye on that. That'll be an interesting one to follow. Let's go. Are we clear of the 2-star plays, Brian?
I have one.
Yeah.
Go. I have a 2-star. This will be my last of the 3 since we already did the other one. But as you can see, right below me on the ticker, Charlotte Hornets minus 3.5. I actually think this can get to 3 because this moved from 4 already. I do wonder where it kind of settles. That's more of a Fiddle question than a me question. Obviously, I don't take a ton of sides. However, you want to guess who has the best record in the NBA against the spread on the second of a back-to-back?
Let me see if I can figure this one out.
The rest disadvantaged Hornets have been Fonseca's favorite little treat from the NBA season.
They're 7-0. They're 7-0 on no rest.
Are the
ATS.
Sixers the second best team at that?
They're 6-0. Yes. Portland, by the way, as Free Sauce mentions, Portland 6-1. They're right up there. I don't know if they have a rest advantage heading into tonight's game, but they're hanging in there with Houston right now.
Do you have a theory on that, or is it just it just is? It's just a reality we live in.
I've tried to do this in our Discord also, and I've tried to explain this to Matt because I point this out, and Matt's like, "Why is that happening?" And honestly, I do think it's because, like, the youth may have something to do with it, but also here's an example tonight. They nearly beat the Raptors again. They lose on an amazing buzzer beater shot, game winner from Emmanuel quickly after LaMelo Ball made an amazing layup. It was just those two teams can play like very, very high level, interesting basketball. In that game, Brandon Miller sat. Now Brandon Miller's going to play tomorrow, most likely. I do think that one that matters because Brandon Miller's quietly he's been playing much better lately. After it looked like his shot was busted, he's had a couple big games recently. The shooting percentages are gradually ticking back up, and I do think that with him in the lineup, we presume because you never truly know. And we'll see if anybody else like Charlotte's one of these teams you always have to watch. Like what's gonna Kalkbrenner might sit again. Diabate was on the injury report. He's been probable. You never know with LaMelo Ball. Like you just have to watch that. Indiana's lost 13 straight games. Indiana's 7-9 as a road underdog against the spread. Charlotte also with a rest. That's no rest. That's just no rest. 7-0 on a rest disadvantage. They're 7-1 against the spread. They played just now and they nearly won. LaMelo Ball also played just 25 minutes. You know what I mean? So that's part of it too. Like LaMelo's kind of been on a minutes restriction for the most part. They're watching his ankles very closely. This is a kind of a revenge spot too because Indiana did beat them and make Charlotte look like shit earlier this year. So this is kind of a revenge spot as well for the Hornets if revenge spots still exist in the NBA right now. They haven't been as true this year at all times. But yeah, I mean, they've just been really good in this spot over and over again. And against the Pacers who are sliding right now and who look terrible, I mean, why not? Why not the Hornets? Why not get back to 10 games within 500 with a win against the Pacers?
Why not? Why not Buzz City, ladies and gentlemen? 1-star plays. Let's hand them out. Let's get out of here. I could give you basketball reasons for mine, but I'm going to give you bullshit instead. Trey Jones over 11.5 points for the Chicago Bulls. This number has not popped yet, but that's typically where his points prop is. If you'd rather take the PRA, that's at about 21.5. I think he's going to have himself a big day. Why do I love him so much? Birthday boy. Give me a birthday prop. Trey Jones turns 27 years old tomorrow, and they play the Heat, so pace will not be an issue. I get a guard on Chicago who is turning 27 years old. And he's fallen short in his last 3 on this, so you probably don't get juice to the gourds on the sports books on the number whenever that does pop. It's just typically the way these things go. Trey Jones over 11.5 points. Happy birthday. Brian,
I'd be curious as to what the points assist prop is for him. He had a bunch today. And with the Heat, they're weird. Like I actually don't know how they're going to attack Trey Jones because primarily it is Josh Giddey and Davion Mitchell, Mitchell, D Mitchell, number 45. Davion Mitchell is going to be all over the place. And I don't know how much time he'll have to spend on Trey Jones because he may actually try to, Kobe White, if he's in the game, will get some Davion Mitchell. You know what I mean? Like he may be preoccupied and that could open up some spots for Trey Jones to be effective too.
Brandon, we do have Trey Jones props emerging right now. His points prop is 12.5 plus 100. I assume once the rest of the market opens, it'll be there will be some like 11.5 minus 130. If you're wondering what fair value on a point is, I just gave it to you. The points plus assists is 19.5. Double for the birthday boy is plus 450 out there. That's kind of interesting as well. 6.5 assists towards the over as
What's
well.
What's the PRA? What's points, rebounds, and assists?
PRA 23.5.
I see. I think their price. These numbers.
He had 25 today. 6, 7, and 12. He had 12 assists, but he had 7 rebounds also.
Yeah.
Double plus 450 for the birthday boy.
He had one against the Pelicans.
Send out 1 star, bring home 4.5 stars.
He had one against the Pelicans, although he shot 7 for 7. I don't know if he'll do that, but
I don't do this every night. I just it was Noah Penda's birthday. I brought it up on the broadcast, and I thought maybe I could fit in. Maybe somebody's birthday is January 8th who's playing on the Thursday night slate before we hop on Bucket. So I looked it up. And Trey Jones' name popped, and I loved the matchup, and I thought, this is perfect. Then I wind up going down the rabbit hole of great birthday performances from NBA history. How about Shaquille O'Neal when he turned 28, dropped 61 points on his birthday?
Was that against the Clippers? Was that the Clippers game?
I would have to pull the article back up. I don't remember who he played against.
He has a game where he went stupid against the Clippers in like the early I want to say 2001.
I'll look that up as Fiddle gives us his 1-star play.
Yeah, my 1-star is going to be Utah and the Dallas Mavericks under 237.5. Utah just went to overtime. So let me explain what you guys should do when games are going to overtime. If a team is playing the second night of a back-to-back and their odds for the next game are already posted, here's a clear edge for people to take advantage of. If the odds are already posted for the next game and they are on the second night of a back-to-back, so in this case, we have Utah and Dallas prices up while Utah is playing against OKC. In that instance, you have the Dallas number clicked, you have 1 unit in your about to bet, and you are 1 button away from getting it in, right? It is queued up and ready to go and ready to be submit. The second either an injury happens, an overtime situation happens, you immediately bet Dallas in that spot. You immediately bet the under if it goes to overtime, specifically for this Utah team that is known to rest some players here and there. It was an underplay for me. So this line, when they went to overtime, just so people can quantify the value that is gained from picking up on this edge, it was -5.5 for the Mavericks, and the total was 241.5. It is now down to 247.5, so 4 points of movement, and the Mavericks are now a -8. So I do think that the Utah Jazz might rest some people. However, I would still play the under 237.5 because the Mavericks in their most recent game started Gafford alongside AD and went away from the Nembhard or B. Will playing point guard, and they put Flag back at point guard. It was Flag, Najee Marshall, Clay, and the 2 bigs, Anthony Davis and Gafford. If you combine that starting 5 with the potential of Utah resting some of their guys, whether that be Keontae, whether that be Lowry, whether that be Nurkic, this is a clear under spot. And for the comment asking about Cooper Flag double-double, I'm actually at the point where I'm like, is it ready? Is it time to just start playing Flag triple-double and Flag like over on his PRA every game? Because if they're gonna thrust this point guard responsibility onto him, it's coming sooner than later, fellas. It is coming. He had like 4 or 5 assists in the first quarter the other day, and I played him for King of the Court. We got close, but I just think the triple double or like just insane PRA numbers are on their way.
Wow, that was a 3-star play masquerading as a 1-star play. That was great.
Well,
Very
just the
actionable.
numbers moved too much. It would have been 3-star if it was still at where it was.
We had some good options for a 4-game slate. And by the way, Brian, round of applause to you. I just randomly throw out there in the middle of the podcast that Shaquille O'Neal dropped 61 on his birthday when he turned 28. And you said, was he playing the Clippers? He was playing the Clippers.
I know a lot of random shit, man. I swear.
That's a ball knower right there.
I know a lot of Matt has mentioned this here too, and Sean Little also. I just know a lot of random shit. I don't know everything that I should know, but I know
Fonseca would be mastermind on Jeopardy.
Depends. Maybe. I might
Who
be
are
decent.
the LA Clippers?
Girlfriend's
Shaquille for 400.
I would mess that up. Just the who are shit. I would have to get used to that. It's weird. Just weird answer.
So weird. Just say it was the Clippers in that answer. Why'd I have to make it in the form of a question?
We should do buckets trivia.
This team allowed 61 points to Shaquille O'Neal. The Clippers did. Not who are the Clippers. The Clippers did.
Yeah.
That's, I like that idea. Let's definitely log that to our mayor, Matt Moore, for the offseason. Before we get out of here, it's time for our Thursday night NBA parlay presented by DraftKings. Cavs money line, Heat money line, Hornets money line. Fiddle and I are on Cleveland here. Brian, take us home on one more time why we love the Miami Heat, why we love the Charlotte Hornets as the other 2 legs on our 3-leg parlay presented by DraftKings?
Because we don't really like the Bulls, and because Charlotte is the best team in the NBA on no rest against the spread.
And what else do you need to know? Plus 376 is where you can get it right now over on DraftKings. That is your Thursday night NBA parlay presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. That'll do it for tonight's episode. If you want to tail any of these bets, look for the quick slip link in the podcast and video description, or go to actionnetwork.com/bet now. You can also catch these podcasts when they go live at 11 o'clock Eastern every single weekday. That way you can get in on the numbers as fast as possible. Shout out to Bryan Fonseca. Shout out to Michael Fiddle. Go follow these guys. Invaluable information every single day from both of them, I assure you. David Payne, our producer, great job. As always, shout out to DraftKings, the sponsor, and to all of you for tuning in. We'll see you next time here, and you know what to do. Let's get buckets.
Oh, so close.